Is now home to some 4,495 colleges, junior colleges and universities, and across the country over 20 million students are currently enrolled within them. Founded in 1817 in Detroit, the University of Michigan is a publicly funded institute now located in Ann Arbor. There are more than 900 student organizations to choose from, one of them being Students for Islamic Awareness. The Students for Islamic Awareness is a non-profit student organization at the University of Michigan Dearborn campus, composed of a promising new generation of individuals who are dedicated to promote Islamic awareness based on the teachings of the Holy Quran and the holy progeny of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him.
My name is al-Shirazi. I am the president of the Students for Islamic Awareness. I'm currently a senior here at the University of Michigan Dearborn. I'm pursuing a bachelor's degree in biology with a psych minor and a philosophy minor, with the aspiration of becoming a physician in the future, inshallah. The organization was initially formed to dispel any misconceptions about the religion of Islam. But with my team and I, we believe that it also has to go further than that. Hopefully, we can portray the universal message of Islam in the most intellectual of ways, because we are on a context, a campus, which is the arena of academia. And so we are hoping to present Islam in that fashion, logically and universally, for all to see and to accept and to accommodate for both the Muslim population and the non-Muslim population. So here, I mean, as you walk around the university center, you can see bulletin boards and stuff with photographs from various different organizations. And if you look closely, you know, our organization is right here, which means that we've been out there and we've been doing our job promoting our organization very well so far. So I'm happy to be among this beautiful M here that we have. One of the biggest challenges I faced coming into the organization and leading it for the first time was that the organization was very secluded from the campus community. And it was very unknown among the Dearborn community as well. And so one of the main visions that I had for the organization was to make it so that it can proliferate among the Dearborn campus community as well as the Dearborn community outside. But our duty, our responsibility, which we take very seriously, which we believe to be our obligation, is to present Islam in its most pure form, which is under the teachings of Ahlul Bayt, peace be upon them all, and to present the moral principles that Prophet Muhammad stood for, as we've done with the Prophet Muhammad campaign, and that Imam Hussein stood for with the revolution of Ashura, and to teach people what these revolutions were, and what these principles were, and how we can implement them in our daily lives.
My name is Fatma Fakhreddin. I am currently studying journalism, and getting my bachelor's in journalism, and I'm minoring in political science. I got involved with the organization. I was friends with people from the organization, and I transferred over from a different college. So when I transferred over, they kind of like, oh, do you want to come join us? So I was like, I love doing Islamic work. So I said, definitely. So I joined, and I got director of marketing, since I am a journalism major, and kind of goes hand in hand, you know, promoting and writing and stuff.
My name is al-Zahra. I'm a journalism student, and I'm focusing on screen studies, so I'm more interested in broadcast journalism. My role in the Students for Islamic Awareness is the director of multimedia. So basically, I'm in charge of the photos. I'm the photographer. I take pictures, I attend the events, and I put them up on Facebook and our social media.
SIA seeks to ensure proper representation of the Islamic principles. SIA also strives to promote unity and cooperation amongst Muslims and non-Muslims, as well as to promote dialogue amongst other faiths. SIA is dedicated to dispel any myths, misconceptions, stereotypes, and false propaganda against Islam and its teachings.
I want to bring awareness, basically. So what I do is I use the means of social networking. So through social networking, through Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, we're constantly updating people about our events. We're constantly reaching out to people. We're putting quotes up by, Prophet Muhammad, or, by Imam Ali, or, these quotes that kind of relate to regular everyday life. Things that can, get people to think and say, wow, this is an amazing thing. I never really thought about it. We want to get people to reflect, to understand things. We hold stuff like dua muqaram akhlaq, which is, kind, good manners. And we hold this dua to bring everybody in from all, and we have it put up in English. People can read it in English, whoever wants to come in that doesn't speak Arabic. And they can understand why in Islam it asks for such morals. Just like, look at the dua, look at these supplications that we have. The supplication of good morals and, being a good person, the highest of morals.
I think it's very important because everyone uses social media. It's not just the media now. It's Facebook, it's Twitter, it's Instagram. It's like all a convergence of media into one. It's like a communication revolution that's been going on. So I think it's very important to utilize that as an Islamic organization to spread the teachings of Ahlul Bayt, who are the most perfect role models for humanity. And it's not just a Shia Muslim thing. I think it should be a universal thing because they are role models for humanity, because they are the most perfect, infallible beings that we should follow in their footsteps. And I think that's the message that we send across, is that followers of Ahlul Bayt.
So I like to call this room the cubicle room. This is where all the organizations basically lodge their trifolds and their materials, where they have their arts and crafts and stuff like that. And usually they have pamphlets on their tables to promote their organization for people. And a lot of times incoming freshmen are brought around here to be introduced to this area in case they want to get involved. So SIA would have something along these lines where we'd have our pamphlets or our promotion material out for people to pick up. We might have a sign-up sheet for them to sign up their names and put down their email addresses. And of course our materials will be in these cupboards to use when events come about. We also have lockers here. Each organization has its own locker. We can store, leftover foods that we can use for other events and stuff like that. It makes it a lot easier to set up events and to host events instead of, taking things out of the university and bringing it back. It's all accessible to us here. So, of course, being responsible, my role as the president of the Students for Islamic Awareness is to run the executive board, to oversee all the activities being done by the different members and officers of the organization, and to ensure the efficiency of the organization as a entity on campus. And so, a lot of times what we do is we come up with these great ideas, and usually what I like to call a leader is a person who can look at society, can look at a community, identify and recognize the problems, and then find solutions to them. So my team and I have become very good at doing that. We look at the campus community if we're doing an event on campus, or we look at the Dearborn community if we're going to open up to the Dearborn community, and we see what kinds of things do we have to talk about, what kinds of issues are there that we have to fix, and how can we make it in a way where it's attractive to have people come. One of the major events that we've had this year so far was the Prophet Muhammad campaign. It was called Man, Messenger, and Mercy for Mankind. So from the title right away, you can recognize that we're trying to take into account the Muslim and the non-Muslims on campus. And the Prophet Muhammad, if you've realized through the media and through many social networks, has been defamed and effaced in terms of who he was as a human being and what he stood for. And because it is one of our mission statements to dispel the misconceptions about Islam, we found it obligatory upon ourselves to take Prophet Muhammad and what he stood for and to represent him properly on campus, especially in an academic environment like this where we can do it in an intellectual and logical way. So here's the bulletin board for student government, and actually I've been in contact with the president of student government as well as other members of student government in terms of how to make Muslim life better. And one of those are offering halal foods here on campus for Muslim students. So that's an initiative that we're trying to take, and I'm working with student government on hoping to, first of all, screen where these halal foods are coming from, to ensure that the food is actually halal, as well as what types of precautions, separations between meats and vegetables that need to be taken to maintain the purity of the halal food. So that's also something that SIA is trying to impact on campus.
Even the Prophet Muhammad himself, has served as an extremely great role model for me in my personal life. You find there's this man who was orphaned as a child, and he's gone through so much struggle in life. Yet you find the principles that he had and the way that he carried himself, his demeanor, the way he dressed, the way he spoke to people, his reactions to his enemies, to his friends, to his family members, carried such a revolution in people's eyes that it revolutionized the world. He came and he had to change a society that was among the most ignorant that ever existed. And he was able to make them the most disciplined and academically thriving community the world has ever seen. After his revolution, the revolution of Islam and the portrayal of Islam from him through his actions, by having people tread the same exemplary path he's treaded towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we excelled in mathematics, we excelled in chemistry, astronomy, philosophy, medicine. He really changed the world in the Muslim view. He took the intrinsic moral values that have been given to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he exemplified those principles for us, and he has taught us how to become like him. And I wanted to share in that vision. I wanted people at the University of Michigan Dearborn to understand who this man was and what his qualities really were. In my opinion, nobody's doing justice to who he was. Nobody's really talking about him much. So we wanted to take him and really expose his character to people. And the way that we did that was through multiple ways. We had a bulletin board in the University Center in which students would walk by every day. And we had quotes from non-Muslims about who he was and what he stood for and the change he has made. We had information regarding his life, the types of hadith regarding his actions, and how he's changed the world. Across campus, we set up lawn signs. And these lawn signs had quotes from him about how we should act. So there were quotes about, smiling to people. There were quotes about not condemning people. There were quotes about being thankful to Allah. And these were distributed all around campus between buildings, between science buildings, between the library, between the university center, CASO building. So you had students and faculty members from all sorts of disciplines, all sorts of backgrounds, seeing these signs in front of them. And many times it caught my eye. Students would stop what they were doing, they'd stop walking, and they'd sit there and they'd look at the signs. They'd read the sign and then they'd continue walking. And right there I knew that not only are we promoting the message of Islam this way, but we're also promoting who Muhammad was. And by making people intrigued with his character and his principles, we were able to intrigue them into Islam and have them ask questions about Islam. And this was, much more prominent in terms of how we interacted with people. Throughout the week, what we did is we had good deed candy bags. And these candy bags had pieces of chocolate in them, and they were tied, and they had a card, and the card had two sides to it. One had a quote from the Prophet, and the other had a challenge for the person taking the candy bag relevant to that quote. So the quote may be, for example, seek knowledge from the cradle to the grave. And the challenge may be, find an interesting fact and share it with somebody, teach it to somebody. And as we were passing out these candy bags with various different kinds of quotes and challenges, people were interested. They began to ask, first of all, who are you guys? What's your purpose on campus? What organization are you with? And this really helped promote the organization on campus, because to some extent not everyone knows who SIA is or who the Students for Islamic Awareness is. You may have engineers, for example, or science students who are not around the university center as much, so they don't get to see all the organizations on campus. But what we did was we lodged ourselves in front of their buildings and we distributed candy bags to them. So they began to know who we were. Then they began to ask questions about the religion of Islam. Then they began to ask questions about Prophet Muhammad. Then we got their names and their emails, and we're starting to see them at our events. In this way, we've begun to grow. So these are the types of things that we've done. We finally ended the campaign with a poetry social, in which we had community members come and express the emotion they had for Prophet Muhammad. It was a very creative and artistic event. The turnout was very good, and people thoroughly enjoyed it, both the participants and those who came as an audience.
We realize that is why He has given us this knowledge, and the pathway to bliss His messenger came to show. To display that believing in God goes hand in hand with the study of His creation and encompasses every aspect of science, while at the same time reminding that a human being can only be complete when his intellect and soul are both perfected in alliance. So we ask you to honestly reconsider what you've been told, to re-examine the person whom every Muslim seeks guidance from, and for wisdom in all matters in life, they are gladly dependent. We invite you to meet the Messenger of Mercy, and his name was Muhammad. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
It's not just through words, it's through actions too. The way we act, the way we look. I think it's very important because people get an impression of you, but just by something really small, such as passing out candy bags. A lot of people really like that because they liked seeing that positive message, and they liked seeing getting free chocolate and passing out water bottles as well. I think people really appreciate that because it makes their day, and I think at the back of their head it's there that, those Muslims, they're not all bad. There's some of them that are like nice, and maybe even if just one person is interested, then that would make a difference in the world for us. I think that's what we're all about.
People were very interactive. People found us very approachable. When we were distributing the candy bags, for example, we did this across 3 days of the week, and people were intrigued by what we were doing, both students and professors, faculty and staff, and they were asking questions about who the Prophet was, who we are. So this was also a way for the Students for Islamic Awareness to gain more popularity on campus. People began to sign up for us because, like I said, we were presenting Islam in a different viewpoint, a viewpoint they haven't very much seen before. There's a lot of Islamic centers around Dearborn in this area, but these Islamic centers are usually for Muslims already. The non-Muslims especially enjoyed the campaign because they saw who Prophet Muhammad was from a different viewpoint, although it was still coming from Muslims. And when we discussed who the Prophet Muhammad was to everybody, they were intrigued about his character, they asked more about his character, and they were willing to learn more about Islam. This is the lounge, the cafeteria area, and we actually use this to our advantage. There are so many people. Right now it's Friday night, so there's not many people, but usually throughout the day, there are so many people socializing, studying, or eating lunch, that what we do is we print out small postcards of flyers that we have, or events that we have, or information about us, like our Facebook page, our Twitter page, our Instagram page, and we distribute it on these tables so that when they come to sit down, they see it in front of them. Another resource that we have are these very large banners, which you can print out for $25, and that's obviously taken from the budget of the organization. And actually I have a couple of banners here. This was our poetry social banner that we used, and we had it designed, customized. It was approved by the e-board. We paid $25, and it was up on the wall for about 2 weeks to promote our event. Once the event was over, we took it down and we keep it for our records and stuff like that. And then we have this banner I like a lot, because if you look at the picture, you find there's a man who is obviously a hard worker. His hands are bruised, they're scratched up, and he's planting seeds. And among the seeds are words like morality, peace, kindness, generosity, and we believe that's what Prophet Muhammad stood for, and that's what he implanted in society and in communities through his moral code. So this was one of those universal aspects of our campaign to try to attract both Muslims and non-Muslims. Seeing words like morality, kindness, peace, generosity, things that apply to everybody, it intrigues people. So we drove a lot of people to come and participate in our campaign this way. And fortunately, a lot of new members joined the organization, and they helped distribute the candy bags, they helped put up the bulletin board, they helped put up the lawn signs, because they believed in this cause. So we did a very good job in terms of promoting it this way.
Well, one event that we had that really stood out to me, we had it last year. It was about the silence genocide. It was called the silence genocide. And it was mainly about, the Shia oppression that is going on overseas. And we focused mainly on Pakistan, and how, just because you're a Shia, or just because you have a certain name, or just because you look a certain way, you are treated that way. And people are getting killed. And even in Iraq, and nowadays it's all over, spreading sectarian violence. So what we had for that event is, first we had a march. We had a march around campus, And we had signs against sectarian violence throughout the Middle East. And we wanted to really bring awareness throughout the campus about what's been going on, and just to voice our concerns against it. And then we had a candle vigil, outside by a pond. We went outside, and some interested poets came, and they shared their emotion and their poetry about what's been going on. And we also had a speaker. His name is Jason Smart. He spoke about what's been going on. If people aren't as aware, he's very knowledgeable about what's been going on in Pakistan and Bahrain and in countries like that where Shias are being oppressed. So it was basically to raise awareness about what's been going on, because it hasn't been really in the mainstream media as much as it should be, because it's a really terrible thing that's been going on to human beings that shouldn't be happening in today's world.
We are going to be bringing awareness about the Bahraini revolution that's been happening for several years now. And a lot of people do not know about Bahrain, let alone know where it's located, and we want to bring awareness to the suffering of people that's been happening there, and how they've been revolutionizing there against their governments or their dictatorships. And Bahrain has been very much forsaken by the world, basically, by the Arabs, by the non-Arabs, by the West. It's rarely in the media, it's rarely covered, it's barely spoken about, when it's such a uplifting and moving revolution. And being a Muslim and being especially of the Shia school of thought and knowing who Hussein is, I see very much the Husseini revolution and the Bahraini revolution. The resilience, the never to humiliation, never to oppression. And so we're doing this event in order to bring awareness to that. Awareness to what Bahrain has been going through, what's been, with the hardships it's been facing, but yet it's still resilient, it's still there, it exists. Open your eyes, see that we want to get a petition signed. We want to get petition signed in order to, urge, the White House, and the president to do something, to intervene, to help and aid these people who have been suffering for several years now. The Bahraini revolution happened before the Syrian revolution, but you see Syria all over the news, and you don't see anything about Bahrain. So I think it's very important that we do this event to bring awareness to everyone that there's people across the world that are suffering. There's people who are being killed innocently and slaughtered. So I think it's definitely an opportunity to bring awareness to that.
So we'll be starting at 5:30.
What we hope to do with this event and to bring people from Bahrain who have lived through this crackdown is to educate the general American public about what is still happening in Bahrain. And at the end of this event, you'll think, okay, now I know, now what do I do? So on each of your tables, in front of your place setting, there are 2 letters, one to your congressman and one to your senator. And what I'm asking you guys to do is to sign your name to that letter with your mailing address. And we will look up your congressman according to your mailing address, your zip code, so you don't have to do that extra step. And we will send that letter to your congressman. So if you can make sure that before you leave, sign your name, read the letter, make sure you agree with the letter, and then write your name, write your address, make sure you include your zip code, and we will collect those at the end of the event and make sure that this event is something that actually helps the people of Bahrain, not just we just sit and listen and get upset and don't do anything about it.
The Bahraini event that we're doing is more to raise awareness about Bahrain in general, but for us, we view it as a way to also, let people know that there are people in the world that are suffering and they're staying resilient. Imam Hussein, when he was in Karbala, he's the epitome of resilience. He knew what was going to happen to him, but he still went, and he still fought in the name of Islam, and to do what is good and forbid what is evil. He said never to oppression, that living under a tyrant is worse than death, and that death is better, than humiliation. And these people in Bahrain, this is what they're doing. They're saying, okay, we have an oppressive government. We're not standing for this. We're going to fight. And the things that I see, the pictures I see, them being pelted with bullets, yet they're throwing roses at the people that are pelting bullets at them. For me, this is what Ahlul Bayt is. That it's something that people come at us, in hardships, but we fight those hardships with the patience we have, the patience of Sayyidah Zainab in Karbala. you know, the epitome of patience that she was and what she stood for. You know, we have so many Zainabiyas and so many Fatimiyas there in Bahrain that are standing with side by side by their husbands and their brothers and their sons, and they're giving their sons for this revolution, you know, and they're proud, and they raise their heads out of pride for the people they've lost in that. You know, that my son or my husband fought, you know, fighting for freedom, fighting what Hussein fought for, which was freedom and justice against oppression. Events like this can make a difference. If even one person comes to this event and is sparked by something in it, you know, that's all that matters. This person can somehow in the future become one of the biggest spokesperson for Bahrain. And this one event could have been their trigger. So anything is worth it. You know, as long as we're doing something, as long as something's being done, that's what's important.
And so we're really growing in that sense by holding these events that portray the more logical and universal message of Islam. Another event that we held was also a campaign, and this was highlighting the revolution of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And the revolution of Imam Hussein isn't as well known. And Imam Hussein as a character isn't as well known on campus or even in the community amongst non-Muslims as much as Prophet Muhammad was. So here we had a bigger task. Here we had to present Imam Hussein in a presentable way, in a proper way, and we had to teach what his revolution stood for in a way that accommodated for the Muslim and non-Muslim community. And so what we did was, similarly, we had a bulletin board, and we had quotes from non-Muslims about that, and we made small ribbons, you know, like the breast cancer awareness ribbons, the pink ones. We had them in black, and we wrote, you know, one of the members of Ahlul Bayt on it, you know, the name. We had Abbas or Zainab or Hussein, and then we had a core principle that they stood for on the other side of the ribbon. So it might have been justice, it might have been peace, it might have been revolution, and we distributed this throughout campus. We also had water bottles with quotes about Imam Hussein from non-Muslims, and we were distributing this for free during our promotion tables throughout the week. And then what this did was it tied the struggle of Imam Hussein to the revolution. So Imam Hussein alayhi salam, for example, died thirsty. The whole revolution took place in Karbala, an extremely hot desert with no food, no water for 3 days. Yet you find he was resilient. You find he stood his ground firm. You find his principles were never compromised. He continued to work under the banner of Islam. He continued to work under the banner of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to promote this good and to forbid this evil. So you find when people are taking the water bottles, of course you're going to ask, what's this all about? And we'd explain the revolution to them. And then as they take the sip of water, they remember, okay, this is the same person who died thirsty. I'm drinking water, and I'm reading a quote about him at the same time. So now we're associating that struggle with the revolution, which makes it that much more meaningful, that much more purposeful. Because the question that comes about is this: why did Imam Hussein do what he did at such an expense? You know, people say he might have fought for political power. People say it may have been for materialistic means. It might have been for things to his own benefit. But when you associate the struggle he's been through, and we all know the magnanimous nature of the struggle Imam Hussein underwent in Karbala, you would think it's impossible for this man to do such a thing where he sacrifices himself and his whole family for materialistic means. It must have been for a bigger purpose, and those purposes were the purpose of implementing the moral code that Islam has prescribed for us, that Allah has prescribed for us. So in this way, both the Muslim population are learning now about Imam Hussein, if they did not know about it already, and so is the non-Muslim population. And we're promoting awareness in that sense. So it's become very interesting for people as to what we're doing. And of course, as I've mentioned before, they're signing up now. And our database, our member base is growing exponentially, I may add. And organizations are approaching us to work with us because they're seeing the impact that we're making on campus. And to me and my team, we feel like it's our greatest pleasure that we can cater and serve to the university in such a fashion.
One of the biggest ones is the hijab that we're doing, the hijab event, which is, you know, modesty, the hijab experience, in which we're, you know, getting Muslims and non-Muslims both, you know, to, you know, mostly non-Muslim women to come try on the hijab to gain that experience of modesty and to see why we Muslim women in Islam wear the hijab. What the point is, what's the reasons behind it, and that it's more than just a cloth covering our hair. It stems from much more than that. You know, it's a way to express ourselves. It's a way to show that we are more than just what the West tells us we are, or what certain places, what the expectations of a woman is. You know, we have more than just, you know, our hair or our fashion, or we have our minds, we have our intellect, we have our voices, and we are heard. Islam gives us that right to be heard. A lot of times they think we're oppressed, but in reality we're very liberated. We're liberated from everything that society tells us we have to be. We are liberated from the eyes of a sexualized society. You know, we're very much liberal in the way we are. We're more than the West thinks we are. You know, in Islam, a woman is stressed on to be educated in intellect, because that's what people are going to base her off of. Because they don't have her looks, they don't have anything. All they have in front of them is a mind.
Another event that we had is about leadership. It's called New Leaders. Forgot the title. But yeah, we had our main speaker is Brother Ali Najaf. He's a local speaker. He's very motivational and logical. So we had a great turnout. It was at the Islamic House of Wisdom. And also we had our brothers from London come in, Ali Fadl and Nouri Sardar. They spoke about leadership, and they recited poetry, and they actually debuted one of their CDs over there, and they had an album signing and take pictures. So a lot of people were interested in it, and it was a great turnout. It was a full house, alhamdulillah. And I think it was one of our good events that inspires leadership and motivation, and take a proactive stance in our community. And a lot of people look up to our leaders today and think, oh, I can never be like that. But really this event was about, you have a leader inside you, and then you can actually be one. I think it's for a good purpose, because we're doing this for God, and we're doing it in the sake of Ahlul Bayt. So I think that this isn't just about us, It's about spreading Islam on campus to non-Muslims. So I think it's actually very important, because we are the representatives of, followers of Ahlul Bayt on campus. So I think it's very important that we're caught up with the media and with our cameras and with videos. I think we should always, put up our events on YouTube for the world to see that we're being proactive in the community, and we're trying, make a difference.
For the organizations across the U.S. who are hoping to open up, an Islamic organization to represent the Shia school of thought, the school of thought of Ahlul Bayt, I recommend that they take on this universal code of Islam, not to seclude themselves as an individual creed or group, but to present Islam in its purest form to both the Muslim and the non-Muslim population. I feel if they do that, they become more approachable as an organization, and they're going to grow. Because when you do something along those lines, your organization across the campus becomes more well-known. And when it becomes more well-known, it intrigues more people. And as more people become intrigued, they start attending your events, they start coming to your meetings, they want to see what you have to offer. And when you show them, of course, with great ideas, what you have to offer, they're going to be willing to help you in your cause. And that's really how it's going to grow. So my recommendation is to collaborate. We also have to collaborate with each other. I have no problem, for example, there are multiple universities in the area. You have the University of Michigan Ann Arbor, you have Wayne State University, you have Henry Ford Community College, all surrounding the University of Michigan Dearborn. And they may have Shia School of Thought organizations as well. And it's important that we collaborate with each other across universities. And I'm offering my hand as well to universities across the nation, or even across the world, to work with us as we're willing to work with them, and to build that really strong face of what Islam really is, to dispel any misconceptions, and to present Islam in the most universal way possible, as the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his household did.
I'd encourage them by, telling them to whatever you can, whatever, even if it's the smallest thing, if it's in the way of Allah or in the way of Ahlul Bayt, it's definitely, it's definitely something. Because a lot of people say, oh, it's not worth it, or it's too small, or it's not going to bring in a lot of people. But you never know who you can inspire. You never know who you can trigger something in them to be a better person. Even if they are Muslim, they can become better. And if they're not Muslim, they have a potential to be a Muslim. So any way we can utilize in order to spread the message of Islam, I think we should take the opportunity. And this goes for all organizations around the world, around the U.S. Form, revolutionize, get together. Imam Hussein only had 70 companions, and he technically he only had 70 companions, but he still won. He still achieved what he had to achieve, because we still know Hussein today. We still know his stand. We still appreciate his stand. We still mourn his martyrdom. So I think even if it's 2 or 3 people, form something, do something. You're still doing something in the way of Allah, and it's always counted. If not in this world, it's for your akhirah.
So my advice to other Shia-based organizations across the U.S. and in Michigan would be to really try to promote this agenda of what Islam really stands for. What is the moral code of Islam? And present it in a way that accommodates for the Muslims and non-Muslims. Because when you do it universally, it becomes attractive. I mean, innately, I believe, intrinsically, which is also talked about in Islamic philosophy, is that human beings are attracted to these moral principles of justice, peace, kindness, generosity. Take the historical figures of Islam. Take Imam Hussein, take Prophet Muhammad, take Imam Ali, take Sayyidah Fatima, take Ahlul Bayt, take the Prophets, and project these principles using events in their names. Make events that highlight what Islam really stands for. And for those organizations that are smaller in nature, that have less members, extend your hands out. Do a really good job promoting your organization. Utilize your social networks. Talk to us. We can also offer you our member base. We can collaborate with you. We're more than happy to collaborate with organizations, be they in California, be they in Dearborn, be they in London, be they wherever. We're more than happy to collaborate with people. We have to build a very strong framework to really educate people about the school of Ahlul Bayt. This is a school of thought that is beautiful in nature. Beautiful in nature, because if you look at the role models that we have, the exemplary status of our role models, the very way they talked and walked impressed people and attracted people. If we can take those principles and we can show it to everybody, then everybody's going to be attracted to it. There's no other way around it. Okay? So that's one advice. And if there's a school, a university, that doesn't have a Shia-based organization, my recommendation would be to form one. It's extremely important to form an organization and to have strong leadership in that organization so that it can grow. And like I said, I offer my hand as well as my team's hand to help out in those collaborations, because we have to really promote this message of Islam. It's a very attractive message, it's a very universal message, and it's a message open to those who accept it and those who reject it. And once you show that to people, people are going to come to you. So we have to take on that leadership stance, and we have to project this message properly and in the way of Allah, and hopefully also to do justice to Ahlul Bayt and showing the people their cause. We can do it as a team, as a community under the banner of Islam.